Japanese Tales, Izanagi and Izanami. Izanagi and Izanami stood on the floating bridge of heaven and looked down into the abyss. They inquired of each other if there were a country far, far below the great floating bridge. They were determined to find out, and in order to do so they thrust down a jeweled spear and found the ocean. Rising the spear a little, water dripped from it, coagulated, and became the island of Onogawajima. Upon this island the two deities descended. Shortly afterwards they desired to become husband and wife, though as a matter they were brother and sister. But such a relationship in the East has never precluded marriage. These deities according set up a pillar on the island. Izanagi walked around one way, and Izanami the other, and when they met, Izanami said, "How delightful! I have met with a lovely youth." One would have thought that this naive remark would have pleased Izanagi, but it made him extremely angry, and he retorted, "I am a man, and by that right I should have spoken first. How is it, on the contrary, that thou, a woman, should have been the first to speak? This is much unlucky. Let us go around again." So it happened that the two deities started afresh. Once again they met, and this time Izanagi remarked, "Oh, how delightful! I have met a lovely maiden." Shortly after this very ingenious proposal, Izanagi and Izanami were married. When Izanami had given birth to the islands, seas, rivers, herbs, and trees, she and her lord consulted together, saying, "We have now produced the great 8-island country, with mountains, rivers, herbs, and trees. Why should we not produce someone who shall be the lord of this universe?" The wish of these deities was fulfilled, for in due season Amaterasu, the sun goddess, was born. She is known as Heaven Illumined of great deity, and was so extremely beautiful that her parents determined to send her up the ladder of heaven, and in the high sky above to cast for her ever her glorious sunshine down upon the world. Their next child was the moon god, Tsukiyumi. His silver radiance was not so fair as the golden effulgence of his sister, the sun goddess, but he was nevertheless deemed worthy to be her consort. So up the ladder of heaven climbed the moon god. They soon quarreled, and Amaterasu said, "Thou art a wicked deity. I must not ever see thee face to face." And they were therefore separated by a day and by a night, and dwelt apart. The next child of Izanagi and Izanami was Susanoo, the impetuous male. We shall return to Susanoo and his doings later on, and content ourselves for the present with confining our attention to his parents. Izanami gave birth to the fire god, Kagutoshi. The birth of this child made her quite extremely ill, and Izanagi knelt on the ground, bitterly weeping and lamenting. But his sorrow availed nothing, and Izanami soon crept away into the land of Yomi. Her lord, however, could not live without her, and he too went off into the land of the Yomi. When he discovered her, she said regretfully, "My lord and husband, why are they coming so late? I have already eaten of the cooking furnace of Yomi. Nevertheless, I am about to lie down to rest. I pray thee, do not look upon me." Izanagi, moved by curiosity, refused to fulfill her wish. It was dark in the land of Yomi, so he secretly took out his many-toothed comb, broke off a piece, and lighted it. The sight that greeted him was ghastly and horrible in the extreme. His once beautiful wife had now become a swollen and festering creature. 8 varieties of thunder god rested upon her. The thunder of the fire, thunder of the earth, and thunder of the mountain were all there leering upon him, and roaring with their great voices. Izanagi grew frightened and disgusted, saying, "I have come unawares to a hideous and polluted land." His wife retorted, "Why didst thou not observe that which I charged thee? Now am I put to shame." Izanami was so angry with her lord for ignoring her wish and breaking in upon her privacy that she sent the 8 ugly females of Yomi to pursue him. Izanagi drew his sword and fled down the dark regions of the underworld. As he ran, he took off his headdress and flung it to the ground. It immediately became a bunch of grapes, and when the ugly females saw it, they bent down, and they ate upon the luscious fruit. Izanami saw them pause, and deemed it was wise to pursue her lord herself. By this time Izanagi had reached the even pass of Yomi, where he placed a huge rock, and eventually came face to face with Izanami. One would scarcely have thought that amid such exciting adventures Izanagi would have solemnly declared a divorce, but this is just what he did so. To this proposal his wife replied, "My dear lord and husband, if thou sayest so, I will strangle to death the people all in one day." This plaintive and threatening speech in no way influenced Izanagi, who readily replied that he would cause to be born in one day no less than 15 more hundred. The above remark must have proved conclusive, for when we next hear of Izanagi, he had escaped from the land of Yomi, from his angry wife, and from the 8 ugly females. After his escape, he was engaged in copious ablutions by way of purification, from which numerous deities were born. We read in the Nihongi, after this, Izanagi, his divine task having been accomplished, and his spirit carrier about to serve for a change, built himself in the abode of gloom in the island of Ahaji, where he dwelt forever in silence and in concealment.